Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star Sports Podcast. It's Tuesday, April 19th, and I'm Blair Kirkhoff. We're talking Royals today. It's been an on-again, off-day-again stretch for the boys in blue. They haven't played since Saturday, but that was a victory, and good things happened that day, starting with Hunter Dozier's two-run homer and a terrific performance by the bullpen. We cover those topics and more on today's show with beat writer Lynn Worthy and columnists Sam McDowell and Vahe Gregorian. The show started as a SportsBeat Live. Let's get started. Hey, good morning from sunny but chilly Kansas City. We are on SportsBeat Live, our weekly conversation about the Kansas City Royals with the guys who cover the team. Lynn Worthy and Vahe Gregorian and Sam McDowell are here, and with you. Please send us your questions and comments. We'll get to as many of them as we can. I want to thank our sponsor, the University of Kansas Health System, and I want to thank you all out in the audience for joining us on Tuesday. It's our first Tuesday show of the year. This is where we're going to be hanging out the rest of the spring and the summer and into the fall. So the schedule means that this will be our second show in 6 days, which is about what the Royals schedule has been lately here. They open a series tonight at Kauffman Stadium against the Minnesota Twins. They haven't played since Saturday. 2 days off, a scheduled day off on Monday, and then the washout on Sunday. I don't know. Baseball, such a rhythm game, and this happens in the early part of the year, right, with weather and built-in off days. But you just kind of get antsy waiting for a team to play, don't you, Lynn?
Well, somewhat, but I think you get even more antsy if you were sitting on that losing streak that they snapped on Saturday.
It's true. That's true. So, the Royals, I think the season is, I want to say it's 11 days old. The Royals have played 8, and they've only won once since Game 3, but that was the last game that they played, which was a 3-1 win Saturday over the Detroit Tigers, and good things happened in that game, and we're going to start with one of those good things. That's Hunter Dozier. Hit a 2-run homer in the sixth. I think it was the sixth inning. Put the Royals ahead 3-1, and that was the final score. Really good to see Hunter Dozier swinging the bat as well as he is right now, and he's just picking up where he left off at the end of last season. Last September, he was. I think he had 6 home runs, or maybe it was something like 6 home runs in his last 23 or 24 games, and was swinging the bat really well at the end of last year. He's one of the few Royals in the lineup that is that has his batting average up around 300. So good on Hunter Dozier. I know, Lynn, you wrote about him after the game on Saturday. What's the difference for Hunter Dozier from what we've seen? Not between September and now, but between September now as a collective and prior to that?
Well, I think the difference is just one. Last year, it seemed like it took him until the middle of the season just to get on track, because he had, coming out of spring training last year, he looked like he was poised for a 2019 type year. And for those who don't remember, 2019 was his career year where he had 26 home runs, I think, and close to, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, which is probably a mistake, but I think it was 80 or 90 RBIs or something like that. And that was, it sort of went under the radar because that was the year Soler set the single season home run record, but Dozier had a career year in 2019. And it looked like last year coming out of spring training, he was poised to have that type of a season. Hurts his hand in opening day, plays through it, but, just wasn't swinging the bat right and started developing some bad habits because he was trying to protect that hand. And then in May, he has the collision with Jose Abreu and, is out for, I think, 2 weeks with a concussion. And he just never got on track. And I think Vahe talked to him in spring training about, on top of all those things, there was the contract that he had just signed in spring training that sort of added to that. And he just never really got into any sort of a groove until late in the season. And, by then the numbers were just, weighing on him. I mean, he was sitting there for most of the season looking up at the scoreboard at a 200 batting average or below. And I think it basically just sidetracked his whole season.
What do you remember about your conversations with him, Vahe? I know we've talked about it before, but now with with him swinging a bat like he is, it's worth. I think it's worth reviewing what he told you back in spring training. Yeah, don't adjust your dials. Vahe's having some audio problems, so we'll get back to Vahe. Maybe you can work this out. Lynn, you talked about the 2019 season. I think he tied for the American League lead in triples that year as well, and it got him the new deal. I forgot exactly what the numbers were, but had the new contract, and we've seen it before, Sam, how players they get a new deal in any sport, and then they start to press a little bit.
Yeah, and Vahe can't talk. I can barely talk today. So the viewers gonna have to push us through. Going into the season, I kind of looked at two guys in the Royals lineup and said, hey, if these two guys can get going, I think the lineup will be pretty good. And it was Hunter Dozier and Adalberto Mondesi. And I thought Dozier was top of that list. I thought there's less pressure on him, I feel like, this year because of the, adding Bobby Witt to the lineup. I just thought the lineup was longer. You can push Dozier down to 6th or 7th. And if he hits, you're in a pretty good spot. And I thought that's been, the Royals' issue the past couple of years. They haven't gotten a ton of production out of the lower half, that 6 to 8, 6 to 9 range. And, Dozier's producing, and suddenly the rest of the lineup is collapsing. So I still think they've got guys in the lineup that will eventually hit. But Dozier putting it together in the first week, like I said, I think if you had a list of guys that you said it'd be great if these guys got off to a good start, if Hunter Dozier's not at the top of the list, he's pretty close to it.
No, for sure. Really, you're right, Sam, too. Between he and Benintendi and Nicky Lopez, that's probably been about it in the batting order for kind of dependability in the first 2 weeks of the season. We don't need to go down the batting average. However, I do have him here of the others. Not very good. Merrifield, Bobby Witt Jr., Salvi, Carlos Santana, Mondesi, they're all trying to figure out a way to get to 200, and Michael A. Taylor's just over 200 right now. So, and that's, of course, that's reflected in the output. The Royals win 3-1, but I think they only scored 6 runs in that 3-game series, and really made a tough luck loser in that or on the day before, on Friday night, of Brad Keller. And I think we need to spend a moment talking about Keller, his start, and what that portends for the Royals. He doesn't have a decision. He didn't get a decision in the game against the Guardians in the second game of the season, and of course he didn't get the decision. Or am I wrong about that? He doesn't have a win to show for his 2 great starts. Combined 13 innings, 5 hits, 10 Ks, 2 walks. So far, so good. I would venture to say even better than good for Brad Keller, right, Lynn?
Yeah, I mean, I think he does. He got the loss on that day. Yeah. They lost 2-1 because he gave up the 2-run home run. So, and he's also giving you length. I mean, he went 6 scoreless in his first start, and he could have kept going. I mean, I think his pitch count was really efficient too. I'm trying to remember what the number was. I think he might not have been, or he might have been just barely the 70 or something like that pitches, but the number of up and downs is what they sort of cited as like, okay, he hasn't gone this far in spring training. It was a shortened spring training. To send him back out there for a 7th inning on his first start, they just didn't feel comfortable with. But I mean, he had probably more pitches left in him that night. And then the game that he loses, and he only gives up 2 runs on that 2-run homer, that came in the 7th inning. He went 7 innings and gave up just 2. And you mentioned the walk numbers. I think that might be one of the most important ones, just because last year, early in the year, when we saw him struggling, he was just throwing the ball over the place. Command was his major thing. He was working with guys on base all the time because he was walking guys. People kept harping on, well, he's not throwing that changeup. Well, part of the reason he didn't throw the changeup was because he couldn't spot his fastball. So he wasn't going to his third pitch when he couldn't command the first two. And you've seen almost an exact opposite this year, where he is able to command, he is able to use multiple pitches, he is able to pitch to contact, and get deep in games. And I think that's, basically the things that, we heard Mike Matheny harp on all spring training about throwing strikes, about not giving up free bases, about attacking hitters. Brad Keller's given it to you in each of his 2 starts.
No doubt about it. He has, that's been really the bright spot of the rotation. And to shift back to the game in which, the Royals won, Chris Bubich gets the start, and he goes 4 1/3 and gives up 1 run, but walks 6, and just didn't throw a lot of great pitches in that game. And I felt bad for Keller the day before, who has got some background noise going on here. But anyway, Keller has the one mistake, right, to Torkelson, and he gets the hard luck loss in that game. So, all right, Vahe, are we back and better than ever?
Let's see about that. Can you tell?
Well, you're back.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
That's right.
Yeah, at least you can hear me. I don't know. This thing worked really well for 3 years, and now it's just this complete breakdown. So I'm sorry. Is it good enough or not good enough, Blair?
Yeah. Well, it is good enough, Vahe, and we've gone through Hunter Dozier. We're on Brad Keller, and 2 really nice starts for him. If I've got the rotation sequence right, we're not going to see him in the Minnesota series. He'd get the ball in Seattle. I want to say it is Hernandez tonight, followed by Lynch and then Greinke. So Keller wouldn't go again until maybe the opener, right, in Seattle. So Vahe, let's do a quick thought on Hunter Dozier, though, since you did spend time with him in spring training. It's really nice to see him get off to the nice start, and what were your impressions of him back in Arizona?
Yeah, I just really appreciated how open he was about what he was facing, and how he allowed for the fact that it did seem to get into his head. Once it got into his body, it got into his head. Lynn pointed this out. I think he had a pretty big spring last year, and then to have that thumb hurt right away, I guess thumb hand, I don't know if we knew the exact injury, or maybe it's been stated and I just don't remember right. But to have that happen right away, and I think probably one of the reasons he kept wanting to fight was he was in such a groove and figured he could just get it back. And then all these issues, and his whole career has been kind of star-crossed. And I think people have never really had a full notion of his capacity because of that. And you do wonder sometimes if he's just going to have the chance to stay healthy. But I think if he stays healthy, the Royals, I think behind the scenes have viewed him as a little bit of an X factor. If you get sort of what you expect out of most of the other guys and get the best version of himself, he's maybe the difference between languishing and being competitive, just somewhere in that neutral area.
No doubt. Okay. Tell you what, guys, let's we've got a little out of sequence here, but I want to go back to Brad Keller just for a moment, because we have some audio from his start on last Friday, and was I thought really good about this. Lynn, you of course were in this asking the questions to Brad Keller. So let's go back and hear from Brad Keller, who threw really well, but got the loss in the game last Friday against Detroit.
One pitch got me and ultimately ended up losing the game. So, like I said, felt like I threw the ball really well, and just it's just a tough one to swallow. We were trying to go in, and that's the thing. Like, I felt like we executed the pitch. The pitch before we went in, got a foul ball and wanted to go further in, and that one just caught too much plate and just right into his barrel. So it was tough. We wanted to go in, just didn't get in as far in as we wanted to go. So it was a tough one. Yeah, just keep pounding the zone. That's been my key. Trying trying to take that from spring training into the season. I felt like I've been doing a good job of that, especially getting some early contact early. I mean, as you saw, our defense is just unbelievable. I mean, you can't say enough good things about them. They're behind my back all day today, and not just mine. I mean, Monty made unbelievable plays. Stalmont pitching. They just let those guys work, and that's kind of been my mentality. And like I said, getting early contact, getting early outs, and keeping the pitch count down, and trying to get deep in the ball game. So I feel like I did a good job of that in one pitch. Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was working ahead, and slider felt pretty good. Felt like I was able to get some, put it in the dirt with 2 strikes. I felt like I left a couple up later on in the game, but also got quicker outs, I felt like, later on. So, I mean, just slider felt good all night. Felt like I was able to move it in and out and throw for strikes for the most part. It's like you said, it's early. I don't think there's any panic or anything in here. I mean, we know we're going to get hot. We know with the talent that's in this clubhouse, and it's just a matter of time of us all clicking on all cylinders. So I don't think anyone's down by any means. We're just flush this one and come back and win tomorrow, and hopefully win Sunday as well. So that's kind of our mentality. This one's over with. We got to look forward to tomorrow.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. And they did that. They flushed it, won the next day, and then got rained out. So, hey, as a reminder, you are on SportsBeat Live, talking Royals with Lynn Worthy, Sam McDowell, and Vahe Gregorian. We're sponsored by the University of Kansas Health System. Hey, just another development that I wanted to discuss is the bullpen, and a couple of guys in particular. Dylan Coleman and Colin Snyder throwing the ball really well. When we were talking about the bullpen before the season, those were not a couple of guys who I had figured to pitch as well as they're pitching. We're going down the list, of Stalmont and Barlow and Garrett, the acquisition, and Brent's, but we didn't talk a lot about Dylan Coleman and Colin Snyder. But Lynn, gotten terrific performances from both of those. They've combined for 10 1/3 innings this year, and 1 earned run between them, 13 strikeouts and 2 walks. Mike Matheny's got to be pretty happy with what he's seen from those two.
Yeah, and I mean, coming into spots where they've been able to sort of leave runners, strand runners on base. I think particularly with Snyder. I mean, Snyder, who made the opening day roster for the first time in his career, found out, I think it was the Sunday before the season started, so like in the middle of a spring training game, found out. And then his first appearance in the big leagues was in extra innings with the ghost runner on second base in what I believe was so it was it was still a tie game at that point. That was the inning that Bobby Witt and Salvi combined for that play at the plate. That was Snyder was on the mound for that. So he got thrown into the fire right away, and they've kept throwing him into the fire. I mean, he was the game that they snapped the losing streak. Colin Snyder came in that 5th inning for Chris Bubich with 2 runners on and only 1 out, and got out of that and kept the game tied. So he's been, just one of those guys that they've, for even with no experience, they've been counting on him in big spots, and he's come up for them. And then, Coleman is a guy that we only saw a little bit last year. He was the player to be named, and I want to say it was the Rosenthal deal is where they got him. He's a Missouri State guy who grew up not far from St. Louis. But yeah, they got him in that as the player to be named late last season. He made his debut, and they really liked what they saw from him. He just didn't see a lot of it. And even this spring training, I think he got a little bit of a late start. And so it was up in the air whether or not he was for sure going to be on the opening day roster, even down to the point where I think that last Sunday before the season started, his appearance in that spring training game sort of put him over the top. They're like, okay, he's gonna be ready to go. Put him on the opening day roster, and I mean, he just comes in. There was a game, I forget which game it was last week, but I remember sitting there in the press box and saying to whoever was next to me that after he just came in and worked a 1-2-3 inning, I was like, did he basically just come in, pump a 97 and just go sit down? I was like, is that what he did? I went back. I think there was like 2 or 3 sliders in there, but that's all he did was just come in and just say, all right, you got nothing for me. So, yeah, those on top of the 4 main guys that you mentioned, the Stalmont, Barlow, Brents, and Garrett, that gives you 6 guys right there that you can count on. And there's more guys that that have shown ability to come through in key spots as well.
Yeah, look, even though the team bullpen ERA is 5.35, that's basically just 2 games, right? The Cleveland, both games and the final 2 games in the Cleveland series. But what a nice development, right, Sam? That you're getting some, maybe, I don't know, if unexpected from the outside, from outside the clubhouse. And yeah, as Lynn mentioned, Dylan Coleman, Missouri State, Potosi, Missouri, over on the eastern side. Outside of not outside, but closer to St. Louis and Kansas City. So pretty nice development for the Royals.
Yeah, I mean, especially when your starters aren't going deep into games. But the bullpen ERA, like you mentioned, Blair, is a result of actually starters that came out of the bullpen and didn't throw the ball well.
We'll get to that in a moment, by the way.
But it's always been those sort of, what do you have out of your first 4 to 5 guys? And like Lynn said, if they can stretch that number to 6, their bullpen takes a completely different shape than I think we thought it would going into the season. Brad Keller needs to throw deep into games. Like Lynn mentioned, when he struggled with his command last year, that was not something he did. I think you're going to get innings out of Zach Greinke. You're going to hopefully get more than 3 1/3 out of Carlos Hernandez when he goes out. But you do have 2 young guys in your rotation. And therefore, while a team might say, who's throwing my 7th, 8th, and 9th, the Royals might have some key spots like on Saturday when you've got to have somebody that can come in and throw the 5th too. And you don't want to use one of your 7th, 8th, and 9th guys to do that. So if you can develop those arms, which are the 4 to 6 guys in your bullpen takes a completely different shape and looks a hell of a lot different than I thought it would go into the year.
And it's a little redundant maybe, but it's especially redundant if you can't hear me.
You're good.
Okay. But shape is the word I was thinking of. I think you're getting some definition now, and it's early. This is all subject to flux, but if you feel like you can get to a place where you can generally reliably count on that group and some of these guys developing, then I think you got that. You got defense you can count on. I think some of these bats will wake up. I think it's only about 3 guys hitting right now. And if you can just get a little more out of the rotation, not just Greinke and Keller and pray for rain, then, I think you got the start of something. So it's different, as both you guys said, than we might have thought. And one of the good differences so far on this team.
And it's probably also worth noting. I mean, I think, it's only 8 games have been played so far. I think in 5 of them, they've given up 4 runs or less. So, I mean, it's not like they had those 2 games where they gave up more than 10 runs in back-to-back. So, it can skew your view of how they've pitched all season. When you back-to-back days, it was like, they gave up 17 and 10. But I think more than half of the nights they've given up 4 or fewer, and I think, like I said, that's 4 or fewer. And I think there's actually half of the games they've given up 3 or less. So I mean, it's not like they're going out there and getting hammered every night. But those 2 games make you shake your head because they sure got hammered those nights.
Yes, and one of those, Brady Singer got lit up, and so that's been his only appearance of the year. The former starter, the Royals' top selection in the 2018 draft, and reassigned to the bullpen this year, and has made only 1 appearance. Maybe I don't know, Lynn. Would he have pitched Sunday? Do you think? Would he have been out of the bullpen in the rainout game? You never know what might happen, but do you think he was in the plans to throw a little bit on Sunday?
He would have. I think he would have been available. I don't know. I mean, I don't think they would have, forced him into the game. But yeah, I mean, I think the issue was the day that him and Coar both pitched. They knew after that they were probably both going to be unavailable for multiple days. And so that's why the very next day, Coar went back down to the minors. They had Piamps was coming off of the, I think, family medical emergency list. And so it made sense to make that move so you give yourself an extra arm that you do have available, because both of those two guys, having pitched, I think, 3 innings or more, were going to be down for multiple days. So I think they knew that Singer probably wasn't going to be available to them, at least for, 2, 3, maybe 4 days to pitch in a game. And also, I mean, I think as we talked about the other bullpen options they have, if it was a tight spot, I mean, I don't think you're going to Singer when you've got 2 men on in a game that's tied like that. I think he's going to be the guy. Even the day that they threw both of them, if you remember, what they did was they had somebody else come in, finish up the inning, clean up the inning, and then let those guys come in with a clean inning. So, I mean, I think he's available. I know he's been out there throwing. He's been throwing side sessions, but I think the main thing was coming right out of that game where they both threw multiple innings. They're both going to be down for multiple days.
Yeah, I was just wondering about him. It's been a tough year for him, and I'm sure he just chomping at the bit to get back out there and throw a little bit. Hey, you know what? We spent a little bit of time last week talking about baseball's unwritten rules. So in that vein, I wanted to ask you guys if any of you all have heard of Roki Sasaki. No, I see. No, okay. Pitcher in the Nippon Professional League, Japan's major league, who threw the first perfect game in that league in like 28 years in a start about a week and a half ago. He followed that up with 8 perfect innings and was removed after the 8th inning because he had thrown 102 pitches in that game. And he had, in his final inning, in the 8th inning of that game, he struck out the side and hit 100 on the meter. Manager pulls him out, and there was a lot of discussion last week about the Clayton Kershaw removal of a game with a perfect game in the 7th inning and didn't get to finish. I can't imagine this Japanese pitcher has been phenomenal. He has 56 strikeouts in about 35 innings this season. He is, he regularly tops 100 with his fastball. So does this fall under the unwritten rule category? It kind of does, but there's also a very much a competitive nature to this as well, isn't there, Lynn?
Yeah, I remembered hearing about the 2 potential perfect games. I think I didn't recognize the name, but
yeah, he finished one and almost finished the second one.
Yeah. But it actually, I mean, and I don't pretend to be an expert on how, things work in that league. I just remember, and this is going back years, there was all these stories when Daisuke Matsuzaka came out about like his legendary exploits as he was growing up and pitching all these innings and throwing all these, back-to-back no-hitters and all that sort of stuff. So it's a little surprising to me that somebody stopped before he finishes off the second one. But here, I would expect it here. I mean, like the Kershaw thing, I was not surprised at all that, somebody said, oh, no, we can't let him keep going and make history. We've got to save those innings for later. The thing is I just mentioned on saving these innings and workload and everything, but pitchers still get hurt so often, and there's still Tommy Johns all the time, and there's still all these things that are happening that I'm not sure what the impact is, but it's almost a given now at this point that that's going to happen. That somebody's going to put the brakes on because we can't have history. We got to be able to, cover our behinds.
Well, I was reminded too that was it last week or maybe over the weekend that that the Mets unveiled the Tom Seaver statue outside of the stadium there, and Seaver, you guys, well, Vahe, of course, old enough to remember Tom Seaver. I don't mean of course, but Vahe remember Tom Seaver, and so do I very well. And pitched in the days when starters went, close to 300 innings a year, and there were 4-man rotations, and the workload much different then for starting pitchers then as it compared to now. So I don't know.
Well, and you mentioned the Mets. The flip side of what I said earlier is also the Mets serve as an example, because it was Johan Santana who threw their franchise's first ever no hitter, and I think he threw 130 something pitches. It was a big issue at the time that they let him keep going, and then there's people who will point to that now and say that after that is when he sort of went downhill and his shoulder issues and things like that. So that's, I guess, the flip side of that. That's the cautionary tale, is they let him go get history, and then now you can't say for sure that was the cause, but people will point to that and say that after that he was never the same. And they got their franchise's first no hitter, but then his career was basically done after that.
Sam McDowell, when was your career done?
Well, there's a Sam McDowell for the Cleveland Indians, I'll have you know. Had a near Hall of Fame career, so
it's a lot of innings. He was a workhorse.
What Vahe Gregorian pitched in the major leagues?
I don't know, but I was told yesterday there was a Vahe on Wheel of Fortune last night, and apparently he represented. So, I don't know what that means. He may have failed miserably and represented.
One more of those cautionary tales, Lynn, was the Oakland A's of the early 1980s when Billy Martin was the manager. They beat the Royals in that one of those strike season, shortened season playoff series, swept the Royals, but they're starting. Billy Martin didn't believe in bullpens apparently, so he left his starters out there constantly, and all arms flew out after that. Guys were never the same after that stretch where Billy Martin was managing those Oakland A's. So, okay, enough trips down memory lane and Wheel of Fortune and Japanese baseball. So, thanks for putting up with us, and appreciate Lynn Worthy, Vahe Gregorian, Sam McDowell, and producer Monty Davis for putting together today's show. And a big thanks to the University of Kansas Health System. And thanks to you all for joining us. We'll be back next Tuesday and every Tuesday during the baseball season. Take care. That'll do it for today. Thanks to Monty Davis, who produced today's show and the Sports Beat Live, and to the production staff of Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Pickett. Tip of the cap to Lynn Worthy, Vahe Gregorian, and Sam McDowell for sharing their Royals and baseball thoughts. 30 pages in today's morning sports edition on a Tuesday. Just saying. Go to kansascity.com and the subscription tab for more information. Thanks for getting this far. Hey, we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC.